There's no toxicity with CBD. There's been some studies done and no real known level of toxicity with marijuana, THC, CBD. That's not true for Tylenol, for Advil, to where you can take an entire bottle and die, right? It's something that is part of nature and just been refined.
Oh my goodness, Mike and Angie, welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast.
Hello.
How you doing?
We're
Thanks
so happy
for
to be here.
having us. I love the name of the show.
Oh my gosh, yes, because literally we can all fake fine, and let's all jump on board with tools and strategies to not get ourselves in that place. Before we dive into all things CBD and gifting health for the holidays and maybe even a little sanity, let's back up to the very beginning of Soul CBD, your partnership, and how on earth you even got here. So, Mike, you were a world-ranked professional boxer. And after being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which almost ended your career, you have kind of pivoted your life goals and what you are doing. Can you bring us back to that place and what got you excited about learning about CBD?
So, for me, I turned pro at about 21 and I had a really long, great career. Super grateful for it. But I think what that did bring is a lot of stress on my body and my mind. And in the middle of my career, my body started breaking down. I was getting severe inflammation. I was getting headaches. I was depressed. I couldn't get out of bed. It was kind of a whole system shutdown, so to speak. And so from all that pain, I spent about 2 years out of the ring, out of the sport, and trying to figure out what was going wrong. And was later diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and Lyme disease was part of it. It was a whole myriad of issues. And so what I learned in that process was, at one point I was on 8 or 9 different medications.
Oh my gosh.
It was really, as a young man, I would think I was, in the beginning when this started, around 25, 26 years old. And so I wasn't feeling better or getting better. And so I really dove into this world of, okay, how much is my mind causing this? How much are other factors, being presented in this case? And so what I wanted to do was look into different supplements and different modalities, essentially, that could help, because I knew that number 9 or number 10 on the prescription route just wasn't the answer for me at that point,
Right, because you're taking one prescription that's causing another problem, and then you're taking another prescription. I can completely understand that. And I think what I love about your story is, I feel like after Jason died and I was like, okay, where did cancer come from? Cancer comes from stress. Stress creates inflammation. Inflammation is literally the root of all disease. So what did you do after you were on these 9 medications and you're like, okay, this is not the answer? How did you get to cannabis being the answer? Can you share more about your deep dive into that research?
Yeah, well, it was a very personal deep dive. And I had a lot of, trainers, doctors, strength coaches, like experts that were on my team or in my kind of immediate vicinity. And I was also training with a lot of other professional athletes, football players, friends who were basketball players, whatever. And the story was always the same. It was that these painkillers that the doctors are giving us are great. They work, but they're extremely addictive. And I found that, firsthand. And so I felt like a different person on them. And I learned that a lot of other athletes were using cannabis and hemp as an alternative to the anxiety and to the painkillers. So it really helped me get off of the anti-anxiety medication I was on and the painkillers I was on. So that's really where I started, like, that deep dive and learning that, exactly like you said, what CBD and what all the other cannabinoids are doing is activating your endocannabinoid system. And all mammals have an endocannabinoid system. This is something we've known for a long, long time in science and in health. And one of the main functions of the endocannabinoid system is regulating your nervous system. So what CBD will do is activate those receptors, the CB1, CB2 receptor, and what cannabis and all the other cannabinoids in general, including THC, help with is really regulating that nervous system and putting you into homeostasis. And so what that is doing is having a trickle down effect on the rest of your body. And so no matter what you're fighting, when you are in homeostasis, when you are in that parasympathetic rest and digest, it allows your body to fight those intruders, those diseases, those chronic illnesses so much better. And so that's why there's often like a stigma, or, some people,
Hmm.
it's like, why would I take CBD? It's wild that it helps with sleep. It helps with anxiety. It helps with inflammation. How could it all help? How could it help with all these issues? And so that's why I got so excited, is because it's working, and how it's helping all those issues from the top down, and really calming down your nervous system, calming down inflammation, and just something I really dove into. And that was the birth of this company that Angie and I started. We really started this as a side project and wanting to kind of help people and get the message out. Really not a huge push on how big it would become. And the genesis was really to help people. And the
Well,
result
really
of
start by
that.
helping yourself. It started by helping yourself, right?
Right, exactly. And so that, I think a lot of incredible brands really start that way, where often when the mission and purpose is to make money, people and consumers see through that. And that really wasn't our mission and purpose. And little did we know that 6 years later it would grow to the brand that it is. But it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, which is so exciting. And I can't wait to like dive into what the brand is today. But bringing it back to even the difference between THC and cannabis itself. Like, I know enough to be dangerous, and I'm like super excited to lean in and learn more from you now, because when Jason was in the hospital and we just had like got the diagnosis that you have cancer, I went on a deep dive researching everything, and I was like, oh my gosh, cannabis. Like, this is a proven herb that you can consume and not get high, and it will help your inflammatory response. So can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of distinguish, like there's cannabis, the plant, which has marijuana and also hemp. And
Hmm.
everything we source from is organically sourced hemp. And but it's important to note that both hemp and marijuana have all the same cannabinoids. Essentially, it's just what levels of are in there. So THC is probably the most commonly known one, as people think about smoking weed and getting high. It's
Hmm.
a psychoactive cannabinoid, and so it helps a lot with relieving anxiety. It helps with pain, dulling those type of heightened sensations. Now, CBD, CBN, CBG, there's a whole myriad of cannabinoids that are non psychoactive and that will not get you high. So, we, for instance, have a whole line that's zero THC and will not get you high,
Yeah.
but has all the other cannabinoids that have those phenomenal effects that I mentioned before. Now, THC and versions of THC, there's THCA, THCV. We have a line called Out of Office that has those psychoactive element to it, because it's really a preference thing, and some people don't like feeling high. But
Yeah.
one thing I will say is that what I'm proud that what we did is really introduce like microdose THC. So we have products to where you take it and you don't feel like all of a sudden you're out of control and you're having a panic attack and you're on the moon, because that is often what people experience and deters them from trying it, to where we're very much so a proponent of crawl before you walk.
Yes.
And I'll just finish by saying, no matter what you're dealing with, I think that cannabis and this world is just another tool in your tool belt. And as
Hmm.
someone who's dealt with chronic illness, still dealing with chronic illness, I just know that adding those tools to your tool belt is really important. And anybody who comes at you with a dogmatic approach, whether they're wearing a doctor's coat or not, of this pill will fix you, this supplement will fix you, this modality will fix you, run, because it is always one of the things that could work for you in your tool belt. And so I'm just always a proponent of that. And so CBD could help you, it could not help you, but just be open to learning about this, because you are your own best doctor and your gut is your own best doctor.
Oh my gosh, amen. Like, you have to, in today's day and age, we have to empower ourselves to be our own biggest advocate, to learning the tools and strategies that work for you, which is why like I'm so excited to just have this conversation around cannabis, the reasons that maybe you should lean in to learn more about it. And Angie, I'm so interested to know, like, from your experience. So Mike decides that he wants to learn more about CBD and he's using these products. And I don't even know, Mike, like at first, before you created Soul, how were you how were you engaging with cannabis? Like, were you getting high? Like, what were you doing? Like, what were the first steps for you?
Yeah, I started primarily with CBD. So, I was getting drug tested a lot, and many athletes are. So before we started the brand, I was just making sure, talking to my agent, talking to people that were sourcing it, that like, listen, I need to see the tests, the certificates of analysis here, and know that it's zero THC, because there's a lot of implications for me. So I started with CBD only and got great effects. And it wasn't until later, and I retired, that I started getting more into the THC side of it.
Yeah. So from a cannabis side of it, you were, and it's like, forgive my ignorance, but I know that I'm not the only one that has this question. So how were you using
Yeah.
cannabis in that stage? Because when I was looking for this with Jason, I was at a dispensary and I was bringing cannabis into the hospital, and he was like, Dana, you're going to go to jail. Like, this is not legal where we are. And I was like, I don't care. I'm saving you. This is going to be so good. So how did you embark upon that? Because this was how many years ago?
Yeah. I mean, God, well, I really started getting kind of sick and dealing with this in 2013. And then it wasn't until about 2016 or 17 that I really started playing with cannabinoids and learning about it. I was lucky that I had a really close friend who was part of a company that had one of the best organic farming in Kentucky and in the country. So I would get a lot of direct source, but I was doing a lot of tinctures, so oils underneath the tongue.
Yep.
I felt like that was the most bioavailable and effective way. And then I was also testing and trying different brands online. So it's important to know that it's really just a legal loophole right now, in terms of you walk into a dispensary and you're getting something, versus there's a lot of solutions like ours that's hemp derived, not marijuana derived, but is essentially the exact same thing that you can buy online now in pretty much every state. So I was really sourcing a lot of that stuff from hemp, but I also lived in California, so going to a dispensary was really easy.
Right? Which is not easy when you're everywhere else. So really quick, what's the difference? You're saying that hemp and marijuana are the exact same thing if you have the THC in there?
Yeah, so hemp, the plants are very similar and virtually identical. Even when you look at them, you smell them. Uh, Hemp is very high in CBD and in other cannabinoids, and lower in THC, in the psychoactive. The reverse is true for marijuana, where it's much more high in THC and psychoactive, and lower in CBD. However, when you're extracting from these two plants, there's not much of a difference in terms of the actual cannabinoids in each plant are virtually the same. And so that's why there's just a little bit of a legal kind of loophole here, and confusion of, oh, how can I ship this to my doorstep? And it's basically, in 2018 there was a farm bill that made THC to a certain level legal if it was derived from hemp versus marijuana.
Okay.
And so that's why you're seeing many companies like ours take advantage of that legal loophole and offer people really, really high quality, virtually the exact same cannabinoid as what you get walking into a dispensary. Does that make, did I explain it?
No, I love that. I love that. And like, I'm curious to know, Angie, what brought you on board? And because your story is different than Mike's story. Mike's story is one of autoimmune disease and trying to address the inflammation from that. And you have more of an anxious, depressive, little twisted story. So can you share more about what made you interested in this solution?
Yeah, what's interesting is when I initially heard about CBD, I was experiencing, and I sometimes still get it, but it's been a while since I've had it, really, really painful cramps. So for any of the women listening, I know they can definitely relate to that. And as women, we find that the only solution usually is Midol or, Tylenol, aspirin, something like that. So when I started looking up how it can help inflammation and the pain and essentially prostaglandins that are being inflamed when you're experiencing extreme PMS. That's what I started originally using it for, is PMS and anxiety. And I really, really liked that it could be an alternative to me having to go take a bunch of Midol every single month. And yeah, I think a lot of women don't know that. I think a lot of women don't know that it can be used for that as well, which is awesome.
I think one really important thing to point out is that whether you're on 8, 9, 10 medications, like Mike, you were sharing, where you're doing one medication to, start another problem, to take another medication, or you're having cramps or migraines or whatnot, and you're using Tylenol, Advil, Bayer, whatever, and you're using it super often to prevent that ailment from, peeking its head through, that you're also disrupting your gut microbiome, and you're disrupting the homeostasis of your body, and you're destroying your health one small tip at a time, where with CBD, you're getting the results without degrading your health whatsoever.
I think it's important to know as well that there's no, toxicity with CBD. There's been some studies done and no real known level of toxicity with marijuana, THC, CBD. That's really important to note as well, because, that's not true for Tylenol, for Advil, to where you can take an entire bottle and kill yourself and die, right? So in terms of overdosing on things like this, it's extremely low risk and higher reward, I would say, as well. I mean, it's like you mentioned earlier, it's a plant that comes from the ground, has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So it's, it's something that is part of nature and just been refined. And we feel very safe offering this to our customers because of that.
CBD, a lot of people are using it actually to be gut healing in a sense too. I have a lot of people who've reached out saying they're using it to improve their gut as well. So I think not only is it not damaging to your gut or going to cause gut permeability and a lot of those issues, people are using it to help their gut and help their inflammation. So
yeah, you can't say about the other things, but can you share more about like how that is helping to actually build your gut, which is huge, because your gut has so much to do with your gut brain connection, your level of anxiety, the way that you manage stress. It's huge. So how does that work together?
Yeah, I would say, I'm not an expert in this, but I would say it has to probably do with your CNS, which then is, your central nervous system's everything. And if you can regulate or modulate your CNS, you essentially can bring down your cortisol, and your gut and your CNS are largely correlated. So if you're stressed, your gut's not doing well, and they kind of dance together. So I would think that that's essentially what they're doing, is if I can bring down stress, and by stress, we mean regulate our central nervous system. That's incredible. I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Very, very diverse what it can do.
It's very diverse. And so for those of us that are intrigued and we're leaning in and we're like, okay, this sounds interesting, how would I start this? Because we know also that cannabis's anti-inflammatory properties have shown really good promise in helping with arthritis, and helping with irritable bowel disease, with autoimmune disorders, with chronic pain, with skin disorders, with all kinds of things that are flared up with stress, right? So how do we embark upon this journey from a baby step? And I love, Mike, how you shared you have to learn to walk before you run, or however you kind of phrase that. You start small and you grow in to an absolute plan. So where would you start us off?
I guess it depends on what you're dealing with. I mean, I think that when it comes to CBD, it's one of those things that more often than not, you need to start to get in your system and build up a little bit, versus THC products, which have more of an immediate effect on it. But, I think that people should look into whether they have anxiety or sleep issues or pain. Generally, the levels that you want to start at kind of differ depending on that. So it really is tough to say with so many kind of blanket ailments that you just mentioned, like where to start. I really don't want to give
you start at like a baby dose, and this is not medical advice, and we are not doctors. We are just here. Yeah. We are here sharing tools and strategies. And I know for me, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and maybe it's my age, right? That I don't even know what I am from a stereotype person, but the thought of any cannabis product comes with the side effect or the mental thinking that like, oh, I don't want to get high. oh, I don't like doing that. And for me personally, it's like, okay, I can have a glass of Chardonnay and I know what I'm going to feel like. And I know that I can have one and then I'm good. And then I'm going to go about my merry day. But like from my cannabis standpoint, I'm like, do I want that? And I don't want to take this whole gummy and then be like on wackadoo land. So tell me more about that, because you guys have so many different products and not all of the products are THC based. So if you're going to take a baby step to say, okay, I want to try cannabis, I'm appreciating this conversation, but I don't know where to go. There's drops, there's pills, there's gummies, there's all kinds of different things. Like, what would be your first step to say, maybe this could work for you?
Yeah, I think the easiest route then would be to start with our single dose out of office. And it's a single dose. It's 1.5 milligrams of THC. And we have CBD in there as well. It's right there. There you go.
Right.
But we worked really hard to formulate this with a hybrid kind of THC strain and a CBD ratio, so that it was a good, gentle kind of start. Generally, everyone is different, so it's really tough. Like 1.5 for me I'll start to notice things and I will get a little bit high and start to feel that buzz. For some people, they feel absolutely nothing and they need 10 milligrams plus. But usually if you're new to this and you want to tiptoe in, I think starting with, 1.5 milligrams, maybe even biting half of it.
Right. I was just going to say that even seems like maybe a lot.
I mean, it's kind of the beauty of the gummies, is that you can kind of choose to, eat as much as you want and move on. But for sure, when you go to a dispensary, often you're going to find 5 milligram base up to 100 milligrams. And that's just not, if you're initially getting into it, what you want. So you can feel confident that 1.5 at the most is not going to be a bad experience for you. But it'll be kind of a gentle start.
And I love that it's called out of office and I call it out of the office. Like, I saw the label and I was like, out of the office. Like, that means to me, like, is it happy hour? Like, what is that? So what is the logic behind the name of out of office?
Well, how does the name make you feel?
So is it really a baby step, I guess, is what I'm asking. Like, if it's implying that you're just going to be kind of, you'll care a little bit less, or it's going to bring your anxiety down. So, I mean, it's the holidays and we're talking about tips, tools, and strategies for handling the stress of the chaos at the holidays. So if you're rolling into Christmas dinner and Aunt Sarah is going to be right there to crawl under your skin and ask you all of the inappropriate questions, maybe you want to be out of office. Is that kind of the premise?
Yeah, you just say, Sarah, I want to be out of the office.
And you take a gummy before you get there. Like, it's a tool and a strategy, right?
Yeah, we just wanted a name that basically encapsulated blissing out, chilling out, turning your brain off in a sense. Now we have multiple strengths, so we don't just have this single strength anymore. So obviously now it's gone beyond just out of the office. Now you can maybe go to space a little bit, but for the first one, it's very, very gentle. The single dose is very, very mild and very gentle. So Mike's girlfriend actually came up with the name because we had an original name, vacay, that we were then not allowed to use. And so we needed a new one, and we actually like this new one better and people love it. And what I will say is the number one feedback of why people are using out of office is anxiety. Absolutely. That's the biggest thing I hear is, hey, this helped my anxiety. This helped my anxiety. Once in a while, also people will say it helps their creativity. So they'll be using it to get into a flow state for writing, working, social events, not feeling like they have to go drink at a social event. This being an alcohol alternative is a really, really big angle for us as well. And that's, good for the holidays. If you feel like you want to go to the parties, but you don't necessarily want to drink, then you can bring a gummy in your bag and do that, or pass this out to your friends at your house. I feel like most people would actually think that's cooler now than just drinking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And even if you do want to have a cocktail, I think you can make mocktails with the droppers. So if you talk about the CBD drops, I kind of feel like I would like a recipe book. So there are all kinds of different flavors of the droppers, and you can start with that tincture of just what? Like, how would you suggest saying you can make yourself a fun mocktail of like club soda and some ice cubes and drop that in and get some flavor? And where would you start with that?
Yeah, same thing as the gummy. I would start with the single dropper, which is it's awesome. Like one full dropper will be the same amount as one gummy, and you'll see there right in the label. And if you want to go half, it's nice. You can kind of squeeze and just do half. So people are really using that, as Angie mentioned, for an alcohol alternative. So I think that's a great place to start, because the beauty of that is like, listen, if it's been 30, 45 minutes and maybe you don't notice anything, then you need more, and you can always work your way up, right? It's just so hard in this category to work your way down. Too often people are taking way too much and then kind of experiencing the consequences of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what we generally recommend.
No, I love that. And I love that you mentioned the 30 to 60 minutes. So like let's out on that for a minute. So if you make yourself a mocktail using the CBD drops and it's 30 to 60 minutes and you're like, "Oh, that tasted delicious and I still like feel amazing and maybe it took the edge off, but I could have have another one." That's fine also to make
Yes.
yourself a second cocktail, have a second dropper full. And is there kind of a stopping point, because there's 1 milligram of CBD in each one of these? Is that correct?
Well, so this is important to note about our brand. Everything sold, and you'll see right there on that label, is 0 THC. So you don't have to worry about getting high if that's something you don't want to do. That the CBD will help you calm down. It'll help with anxiety. It'll help you
Without the THC.
Correct.
No, I love that. And I think that that's something really important to point out, because with the drops, you are taking the edge off, you are alcohol free, and you are THC free. And you are just giving yourself a healthy alternative to whether you take the tincture and you put it under your tongue, put it right, you keep it in your purse and you throw it right in your mouth, or you make yourself a cocktail. I think you can do either thing. And if you want the out of office experience where you want a little bit of the Aunt Sarah numbing in your mind, where you're like, I can hear you, but I'm not really listening, then you can take one of these options that has a little bit of THC and kind of start with that. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're spot on. That's the way I even went about it personally.
Yeah, I feel like I am so excited to try all of these things, and I'm going to try with the dropper that doesn't have the THC, because I'm a nervous Nelly and I'm not sure. But I am excited to share this with the rest of my family, because I do have college age teenage children, and they're excited to try the little bit of THC and see what that feels like. But I want to take a moment before we kind of like wrap up any of this and talk about Big Brain. So Big Brain is a gummy that comes in many different flavors, and it is without THC, but just the cannabis plant for what?
Yeah. So big brain is for focus. And what's interesting is, there's no THC at all in there. So there is no hallucinogenic effect. You will not get high from big brain. Oh yeah, there. So for any of the women or men listening who are ADD, neurodiverse, if you have heard of nootropics, which is essentially green tea, caffeine, ginkgo biloba, bacopa monnieri, B6, these are the top things that can help. Taurine, sometimes L-theanine, they can help to stimulate your brain and to help you focus without it being something like an Adderall that can be highly addictive and have possible side effects. So essentially, we added in ginkgo, bacopa monnieri, a few different things in there to make it a natural nootropic, which is really nice. So have you tried that one yet or no?
I have not tried that yet. I was waiting to chat with you guys.
Oh,
I don't know why I'm such a creature of habit, and I have
oh my
my
gosh,
habits.
you have to try it.
Maybe I'll try one right now and see what that tastes like.
Yeah,
But
you know what?
so
Real
I
time.
am real time. Let's give it a whirl. I am so excited just to have more tools and strategies, and nootropics are everything, right? Because they're helping to fire up your brain. They're helping to fire up that gut brain axis and give your brain more creativity, more focus, more motivation. All right, here we go. Here we go, Ange. I want to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, you
but
could do
tastes
half, you
good.
could do whole. I do half sometimes, and I really like that too. It has a little bit of we have a caffeinated version and a non-caffeinated version, which is really, really great. So if you're somebody who's really sensitive to caffeine and you don't do a ton of caffeine, I don't do a ton of caffeine, you can do that option. Or we do have the boost one, which is the caffeinated, which is awesome.
I love
So
that. I love that. So I just did the caffeinated. I did tangerine caffeinated. I will say this, it's delicious. And I'm all about the caffeine. So you can have caffeine or not have caffeine. I am the kind of person though that can have caffeine and go to bed like 10 minutes later. Like it doesn't bother me the way that it bothers other people. But again, this is a journey you have to be on for yourself, right? You like the non-caffeinated version. So for every person listening, tools and strategies for managing your stress, managing the stress of the holidays, and not only showing up better, but living, right? You're living better because you feel better and you're able to show up as that authentic person. The last thing that I want to touch on is the sleep stuff. So tell me more about there's like 17 versions of Sleepy.
Well, yeah.
Tell me more. Cause I was like, well, I
did
don't
you
know
get a
what kind of
different
sleep
brand?
I
Uh-oh.
want.
Did you
Yeah.
get the wrong
Well,
shipment?
I have. Well, there's this bedtime drink, which sounds delicious.
Yeah.
It's
We have
cocoa
3.
cinnamon. Yeah. Okay, 3.
Yeah,
I
so we
said
have
17, but what I meant was 3.
no, I know. It's just funny. We have a drink, capsules, and gummies. I'm like, we only have 3. We should only have 3. Which is great because you can mix it up. I honestly respond best to the capsules, which is interesting. And then the gummy, then the drink. But as far as enjoyability, I enjoy the drink first, then the gummies, obviously, then
Right.
capsules, because capsules aren't fun to take. Not necessarily not fun, but they're not delicious. And so you get to
Right.
decide how you're feeling that night. If you're traveling, what's best for you. The drink is a little bit different in that the Sleepy drink actually does not have CBD. That's our only non-CBD product.
Okay.
But what's great is it has CBN in it, which is really interesting. I was just with a bunch of people the other day who have sleep issues, and he's on a bunch of sleep meds. And he said the only thing that helped him to get off of it was CBN, because CBN is nature's natural sedative in a sense. And so basically it's a very, very mild, gentle sedative. I know that word can sound kind of scary, but it's basically your body's way of it calming down and slowing the brain down. And so CBN's in there. Mike can talk more about CBN, but inside the gummy is CBD, CBN, melatonin, and then this specific formulation called Sleep Right, which is essentially a bunch of different things that are in there as well. But that's why those gummies work so well. I mean, I get DMs probably at least 3 or 4 every single week. Oh my God, these are the best sleep gummies I've ever had. Like,
Yeah.
it is by far one of our best for a reason. People love sleepy gummies. Like they're just fantastic. They're great. They're really good. Like, it's a really, really good sleep product if you're struggling at all with sleep.
I love it. So Sleepy, the drink, has what in it? Like, I mean, cocoa or cacao, like, really helps with sleep because it has magnesium and other really great qualities that are going to help you fall asleep. Like, what else is in that drink that is helping you to calm down?
Yeah, it also has GABA. So GABA and magnesium, which is really good. It does have some melatonin, but that specific formulation of Sleep Right is what has most of that GABA and that melatonin in there. And then I believe there is some passion flower. So what's nice that it's all herbal things that are natural to help you sleep. It's nothing intense, obviously, nothing that's going to be
Right.
intense for the system. And what's so great about all of them, well, what's great about the drink and the gummy is you can do a half a scoop. You could do half a gummy. You can start slow, like Mike said, and build your way up versus doing 4 scoops or 4 gummies. Like, start slow with everything and see, because always do minimum effective dose. If your body needs just half a gummy, awesome. You need half a gummy. If I need half, and then my fiance, he needs 2 of them. So everybody's body is different with its sensitivity to things.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that there's also like something to be brought up for melatonin. Like, your body needs naturally made melatonin so that you continue to create that melatonin for yourself. And for taking that in an artificial supplement, it works, like, the studies have shown that it works for about 50% of the population. So if you've tried something that doesn't have melatonin and it hasn't worked, it might be because you're part of the population that melatonin would maybe make a significant impact on your sleep. Where I know that I have tried other gummies that are non-melatonin and they work really well for me. But it's just a matter of finding that tool and that strategy of whatever works for you. Mike, can you share a little bit more about what was it? CN not CBD. But what did you
CNN.
say was in CNN? What? Tell me more about CNN.
Yeah, well, CBN is a cannabinoid, as Angie mentioned, that really, really helps with sleep. So also found in the hemp plant, and we extract it specifically for that reason to put into sleep products. So you'll see a lot of very popular sleep products right now on the market that have CBN, cannabinol in it. And essentially the way it activates your endocannabinoid system is helping much more with sleep than any of the other cannabinoids. It's a mouthful to say these.
It is a mouthful, but you're doing a great job. Like, what do you think what is the thing people get wrong most about cannabis?
I think often people think that it's going to like hurt and harm them. And once again, I really go back to the toxicity level. And I go back to the reason, why it's been demonized over the years and started is really for not the right reasons. We could do a whole history lesson and podcast about why it was demonized, but it really came down to, money and greed and the wrong reasons. So,
well, I think we should dive into that for a hot minute. I think the reason, and I've researched this in the 5 minutes I researched more than 5 minutes when my husband was in the hospital. But even at first, and when I was asking his oncologist about using cannabis and about going this route, any mainstream doctor will say, like, they can't profit from it and they can't prescribe it. And because they can't prescribe it, it's not a tool that they are comfortable with sharing with you because they're not schooled in that. So, like, let's just take a minute. When you say it's demonized, like, is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, most of the modern medical system goes back all the way to like being designed by Rockefellers and different people in American history to where, the way it works. Like, first of all, let me give you an example. Most medical schools will have maybe 6 hours, maybe 0 hours of nutritional classes and learning.
Yeah, let's say that again for the people in the back. Like 6 hours to Jason's oncologist admitted, and he was like the nicest guy and I love him, so I'm not saying this negatively at all. But when I was peppering him with what should I feed him, what should I do, what should I whatever, he was like, Dana, I'm not schooled in that. Like, we had one class of school on nutrition, and I don't know any, like, I can't give advice on that. And I think that cannabis falls into that category.
It absolutely does, because it's something that is grown in the earth and people could grow it in their backyards. And I think that if there's not a way to treat someone and put them in that flywheel medical system, where they can't profit from it, like you said, then it's one of the things on the FDA and pharmaceutical hit list. I mean, we have a hemp roundtable, for instance, that has a bunch of different brands and lawyers and advocates that goes to Washington, D.C. to lobby for this, because we have over 10,000 5-star reviews. We have people DMing us, Angie, myself, saying how this changed their life, how this changed their husband's life. He just came back from active duty and he can finally sleep again. Like, the benefits of cannabis in general are massive, from mental health to physical health. But if you want it to be legal and part of law and under the right regulation, you have to lobby. And what you need to do when you lobby is have millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. So pharmaceutical industries, alcohol industries, all these other people that profit off this are doing everything they can to push this down. So we are also lobbying on our behalf, but it's like a David versus Goliath thing. So I think it's important to note that, with the lack of like FDA guidance, there's also bad actors out there that give really accredited companies like ourselves in an industry a bad name. So no matter who you're choosing, it's important to look at what's known as COAs, which is certificates of analysis, to, we're selling trust at the end of the day. So any type of supplement or any type of cannabis, you need to really look back to the source. Where are they sourcing from and what are the test results? Because, it's going to be a few more years. I think it's not an if, but a when it becomes fully federally legal. But for all those reasons, we've just had so many hurdles and things we've had to fight through.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about cannabis, whether it's just the cannabinoid or it's THC, either of the products that you have, and you talk about the purity and the safety of those products, can we spend a minute talking about? I know you just said you're looking for the specific nomenclature on the label, but what else can we raise awareness around for saying like, oh, I just hopped on Amazon and I found, these things, they're $9.99 for a million. So, I mean, I know that Amazon has a lot of really great things, but it's also not regulated. And there are a lot of people selling a lot of things that are not pure. So, can you share your thoughts on where you get your cannabis supplements?
Yeah, don't buy them on Amazon. I mean,
Yeah.
Amazon, unfortunately, is really rife with a lot of bad actors.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's important to find companies that are sourcing here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Often, if you're sourcing outside the United States, they have a lot lower guidelines and they're less stringent on the pesticides and the different things being sprayed on the actual plants. Once again, looking at COAs and understanding where it's coming from and is really important. And often there's brands on Amazon or affiliate websites that you link back and just feel scammy, look scammy, and they don't trace back to a single point or person.
And when you're looking at the safety of your products, like you guys third party test them. And I know like glyphosate is huge because you're spraying Roundup everywhere. And a lot of these plants then are absorbing the glyphosate and all of these chemicals that you're eventually eating, which are causing other problems. So how do you steer clear of all of that?
Well, we source only from organic hemp farms, which I think is important. And then, as you mentioned, having legitimate third party lab testing that can look at different levels of everything that you mentioned in there, including pesticides and mold and things that you don't want is incredibly important too. We actually do double third party lab testing. So a lot of what we do is we're spending a lot more money than we quote unquote have to, but it really starts from the fact that, this is a family run business. And the last thing I ever want to do is give someone something that could hurt them or damage them. And it's something that we take every single day. I mean, I've got, all our different products here that I'm taking on a daily basis. And for me, having a chronic illness, I'm not going to put something in my body that could compromise that. I already deal with enough pain as it is from my sport.
Yeah. What's your personal protocol on all of the supplements to help you manage your pain? Do you mind me asking?
In terms of our supplements, I love Big Brain. I think it's phenomenal to get that focus going. I take the tinctures, the pure CBD tinctures. I feel like it's the best bang for your buck. I need a lot of milligrams. I'm, 6 foot, 200, 10 pounds or something. So I'm somewhat of a bigger guy. And love Sleepy. So the Sleepy gummies at night are really, I think, kind of one of my go-tos right now. So it kind of depends on the day, but I think those three are a really good staple for myself. And then, I've also been working with functional medicine doctors, and I just got my labs ran again. I'm constantly running them and going through different protocols. So I'm, taking fish oil every day. I'm taking magnesium, a bunch of different things. But that's kind of my protocol right now.
I love it. I love it. Angie, what's your go-to products what CBD products are you hooked on?
Yeah, like Mike said, Sleepy is so good. I love, love, love Sleepy. I am really loving, of course, I love Harmony for PMS. That's great.
We didn't even talk about that one.
Yeah, so it's specifically for PMS. So it has B6 in there, and it has things in there to actually help women with cramps, which is really, really nice. You can start it actually a few days before your period arrives. And then I have really bad, which I'm really trying to figure out, I have really bad flight anxiety still. It's really bad. It's getting worse. Which really deters me from flying because I have fear of now flying a lot with turbulence. So I'm actually using out of office for turbulence anxiety. And I know a lot of people deal with that. It's a real thing and it can feel really unsettling. So that has actually really, really helped, which is so weird because I never expected, that was never the plan to, I have this, let's create this for that. I was like, you know what, this is one of the tools in the toolbox. And it really helps when I'm feeling like, oh my God, I hate turbulence. And so I know a lot of people deal with that. So I have a lot of messages saying, can I use this for flight anxiety, travel anxiety, being at airports, things like that.
Flight anxiety is a thing. Yes, flight anxiety is a thing. Social
Totally.
anxiety is a thing. And again, these are
Yeah.
tools and strategies to help you. So run,
Yeah.
do not walk to what is the website is getsoul.com, correct? It's get.soul.com. And you can use promo Dana. Angie and Mike have gratefully given you 30% off whatever you do purchase with the promo code Dana, and help yourself and gift the gift of calm, the gift of feeling your absolute best, the gift of lowering inflammation. And if you're ready to lean in and learn more, I'm super excited to try my tincture. I will say that I feel amazing. I took the gummy, what was it, maybe 20 minutes ago? And I feel like my brain is like, let's go. You want to do, what are we doing after this? Like, let's go do something. So I am super
Yeah.
excited to have another tool in my tool chest. And I just thank you guys so much for being here and for creating these supplements, obviously for yourself, but for all of us as well to enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Dana. Thank you for sharing. And we hope that everybody
Yes.
stocks up now for the holidays and get everything now for any of the social anxiety, travel anxiety, all of that. And then they'll have it in time for the holidays.
I
So
love it. I love it. All right, you guys, catch you next time.
thank you so much.